Japanese pilots were terrified they couldn't outrun, outclimb, or outgun the F4U Corsair. March 14, 1943. Rabaul, New Guinea. Lieutenant Commander Minoru Genda leaned over the intelligence report, his weathered fingers tracing the grainy photograph of the new American fighter. His eyes narrowed with barely concealed amusement. "Look at this," Genda said, tossing the report across the polished table. "The Americans have built another heavy fighter, as if Wait ever won dogfights." Commander Saburo Sakai picked up the photograph, studying the distinctive inverted gull wing design. "It looks like a compromise, too heavy for maneuverability, too complicated for their inexperienced pilots." Lieutenant Jiro Nakamura, intelligence officer for the 4th Air Army, cleared his throat carefully. "The preliminary reports suggest improved performance characteristics. Speed estimates exceed 400 miles per hour. Climb rate appears exceptional." But Genda waved him off with a sharp gesture. "Performance on paper means nothing against combat-proven pilots. We dominated at Pearl Harbor with a 29-1 ratio. At the Philippines, 72-1. Over Darwin, we lost 3 aircraft while destroying 8 times that number." He stood, walking to the map on the wall. "Our pilots average 500 combat hours. Their pilots arrive with barely 200. Our Zero climbs faster, turns tighter, and our men know how to use these advantages." The mathematics were undeniable. Japanese air superiority had been proven in blood across the Pacific. What Genda didn't know, what none of them could have known as they reviewed intelligence reports in that humid base headquarters, was that the F4U Corsair would systematically destroy Japanese air power within 18 months. The numbers would become catastrophic. 2,140 enemy aircraft destroyed against 189 Corsair losses in aerial combat. American factories produced 12,571 Corsairs. Japanese monthly production of all fighter types combined barely exceeded 600 aircraft. The confident analysis in that Rabaul headquarters would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 18,500 Japanese pilot deaths. Witness tracking. The mocker, Genda, the warner, Nakamura, the witness, Sakai, all introduced Japanese confidence in early 1943 rested on undeniable combat results. At Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, Japanese naval aviation destroyed or damaged 21 American ships while losing 29 aircraft. At Clark Field in the Philippines, December 8, 1941, Japanese bombers destroyed 18 B-17 bombers and 53 P-40 fighters on the ground, suffering minimal losses. Over the Java Sea, February 1942, Zero fighters achieved a 15-1 kill ratio against Dutch Brewster Buffaloes. At Ceylon in April 1942, Japanese carrier aircraft sank the British carrier Hermes, 2 cruisers, and 7 merchant ships while losing just 18 aircraft. At Darwin, Australia, February 19, 1942, 188 Japanese aircraft destroyed 23 Allied aircraft with only 2 Japanese losses. The Mitsubishi A6M0 possessed specifications that justified this confidence. Maximum speed, 331 miles per hour at 16,000 feet. Service ceiling, 33,000 feet. Rate of climb, 3,100 feet per minute. Range, 1,929 miles with external tank. Armament, 220 cannons, 2 7.7 machine guns. Empty weight, 3,704 pounds. The Zero could outmaneuver any Allied fighter in service during 1941 and early 1942. American failures reinforced Japanese confidence. The Brewster Buffalo, deployed to defend Singapore and Java, proved catastrophically inferior. Maximum speed, 313 miles per hour. Rate of climb, 2,290 feet per minute. British pilots called it a flying coffin. The P-39 Airacobra rushed to Pacific bases, suffered from poor high-altitude performance and limited range. At Port Moresby, P-39s achieved barely a 1-1 kill ratio against Zeros. The P-40 Warhawk, backbone of American fighter defense in 1942, could not match the Zero in climb rate or maneuverability. Minoru Genda's combat record exemplified Japanese superiority. He had personally planned the Pearl Harbor attack, selecting targets and coordinating 6 carrier air groups. His tactical innovations at China Lake in 1940 established the doctrine that dominated Pacific air combat in 1940-119 for 2. Genda had flown 78 combat missions, achieving 11 confirmed kills. He had trained under Isoroku Yamamoto, studied American industrial capacity, and concluded that Japanese pilot skill would offset material disadvantages. His calculations showed that a 5:1 kill ratio would offset American production advantages. Jiro Nakamura presented data to headquarters in February 1943. American production capacity exceeds our estimates. Ford's Willow Run plant alone produces one B-24 every 63 minutes. Consolidated Aircraft in San Diego produces more bombers monthly than our entire heavy aircraft industry produces yearly. He spread photographs across the table showing vast American factory complexes. We should consider defensive strategies that account for their production capacity. His superior officer dismissed the concerns. Production means nothing without skilled pilots. Americans cannot create experienced combat aviators from their soft civilian population. The mathematics favor warriors, not factory workers. Saburo Sakai had experienced American fighter weakness firsthand over Guadalcanal. On August 7, 1942, his Zero element engaged 4 F-4F Wildcats. The American fighters attempted to climb to altitude. Sakai's wingman destroyed 2 Wildcats before they could gain advantageous position. The remaining Americans dove away, unable to sustain turning combat. Sakai observed, "They fought bravely but without finesse. Their aircraft were rugged but clumsy. Our Zeros danced around them." Over 58 combat missions, Sakai achieved 64 confirmed kills. His experience confirmed that American pilots lacked the years of training that created Japanese superiority. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Witness tracking: the mocker Genda, the Warner Nakamura, the witness Sakai, Stratford, Connecticut. April 1943. Igor Sikorsky walked through the Chance Vought factory floor where F4U Corsairs took shape under electric lights that never dimmed. This single facility produced 31 aircraft daily. Every 46 minutes, another Corsair rolled off the production line. In February 1942, America produced just 14 Corsairs as the type entered initial production. By August 1942, production reached 87 Corsairs monthly. By March 1943, Chance Vaught's Stratford facility was producing 735 Corsairs monthly. By June 1943, combined production from Chance Vaught, Goodyear, and Brewster facilities reached 902 Corsairs monthly. This single American program was producing more fighters monthly than Japan's entire fighter production across all types. Martha Reynolds, previously a seamstress at Hartford Textiles, now operated a pneumatic riveter on F4U wing assemblies, installing 247 rivets per hour across the distinctive inverted gull wing structure. She worked 8-hour shifts, producing components for 3.87 Corsairs daily. Her individual daily output exceeded the total weekly fighter production of Nakajima's Oda plant, which produced 12 Zeros weekly. Martha had worked at Chance Vaught for 7 months. She earned $42 weekly, more than double her textile wages. The factory employed 11,200 workers across 2 shifts. Martha produced more aircraft components in 1 shift than the entire Japanese Naval Air Technical Arsenal at Yokosuka produced complete aircraft in 3 days. Robert Washington, from Birmingham, Alabama, operated the hydraulic press that formed Corsair engine cowlings, producing 47 cowlings per 8-hour shift. His station's daily output exceeded the total cowling production of HI's Nagoya facility, which produced components for 23 aircraft weekly. Robert had operated his press for 11 months. He processed 2,847 pounds of aluminum sheet per shift. Japan's entire aluminum allocation for military aircraft production in April 1943 totaled 2,800 tons monthly. Robert's single press station consumed aluminum equivalent to Japan's daily allocation for 14 aircraft. His individual waste aluminum metal trimmed and discarded during forming exceeded 47 pounds daily, more aluminum than Japan allocated for a complete zero-wing spar. Charles Wilson, $1-a-year man from General Electric, managed engine installation processes that placed Pratt & Whitney R2800 double WASP engines into Corsair airframes. His assembly team installed engines into 31 airframes daily. Each R2800 produced 2,000 horsepower. Pratt & Whitney's Hartford plant produced 687 R2800 engines monthly. Japan's Nakajima Saki engine production peaked at 620 engines monthly for all fighter types combined. A single American engine plant outproduced Japan's primary fighter engine manufacturer. Americans discarded 347 pounds of aluminum scrap daily at Chance Vaught's Stratford facility. Japan allocated 2.1 pounds of aluminum per zero manufactured, rationing every gram. The waste from single-day American Corsair production exceeded Japan's aluminum allocation for 165 complete Zero fighters. The waste from forming Corsair wing skin panels exceeded Japan's total aluminum scrap recovery for an entire month. American workers trimmed excess material from formed wing panels, discarding aluminum that Japanese engineers would have painstakingly saved, melted, and recast. Stratford's daily aluminum waste exceeded 800 pounds. Japan's monthly aluminum scrap recovery totaled 12 tons. Workers threw away damaged rivet assemblies that Japan rationed by individual count. American quality control rejected 3.7% of rivets due to minor imperfections. These rejected rivets, 127,000 daily across Chance Vaught production, were discarded into scrap bins. Japanese engineers allocated rivets by individual count to each aircraft, tracking every rivet through meticulous paperwork. The cafeteria at Chance Vaught's Stratford facility discarded more beef daily than Rabaul's entire air garrison received monthly. The factory cafeteria served 11,200 workers across 2 shifts, providing 2,847 pounds of beef daily. Waste beef trimmings, uneaten portions, and spoiled meat totaled 342 pounds daily. Japanese forces at Rabaul received 280 pounds of beef monthly for 2,400 personnel. The electricity consumed to illuminate Chance Vaught's factory floor during night shift production exceeded the total electrical generation capacity of Tinian Island. Stratford's factory lighting consumed 1,847 kilowatt-hours during the night shift. Tinian's single generator produced 420 kilowatt-hours daily, powering the entire Japanese airbase, including hangars, headquarters, barracks, and the communications station. Jiro Nakamura studied intelligence reports about American aircraft production in May 1943. The numbers seemed impossible. He prepared a briefing for 4th Air Army headquarters. American production of the F4U Corsair alone exceeds our total monthly fighter production. Combined American fighter production, including P-38s, P-47s, P-51s, F-4FS, and F-6FS, exceeds 2,000 aircraft monthly. Our maximum fighter production across all types reaches 620 monthly. He included photographs of American factory complexes. Their single-shift production at multiple facilities exceeds our maximum effort output. The briefing was filed without action. His commanding officer noted, "Quantity cannot offset quality and pilot experience." Witness tracking, the Warner Nakamura, June 11, 1943, Rendova Island, 1447 hours. Saburo Sakai was on routine patrol at 22,000 feet when he spotted them. 6 Corsairs climbing from the south, their distinctive inverted gull wings unmistakable against the cloud layer below. At 1447 hours, Sakai signaled his element to prepare for engagement. At 1448 hours and 37 seconds, the lead Corsair pulled vertical, climbing through Sakai's altitude with impossible acceleration. At 1449 hours, the Corsair element scattered Sakai's formation with a single high-speed pass. Sakai attempted to turn inside the lead American fighter. The Corsair did not turn with him. It extended, climbed 4,000 feet in 47 seconds, reversed, and dove back through Sakai's element at 420 miles per hour. At 1449 hours and 52 seconds, Sakai's wingman exploded, his Zero disintegrating under concentrated fire from 6.50 caliber machine guns. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 15 seconds. Kill time, 15 seconds. At 1450 hours and 19 seconds, a second Zero fell, trailing fire. The pilot attempted to bail out, but his parachute caught fire. Kill time, 27 seconds. At 1451 hours and 8 seconds, a third Zero stalled during an evasive climb, vulnerable for just 3 seconds before American fire tore through the cockpit. Kill time, 3 seconds. At 1451 hours and 44 seconds, the fourth Zero of Sakai's element dove for cloud cover. A Corsair followed, caught the Zero at 380 miles per hour, and destroyed it before it reached the clouds. Kill time, 36 seconds. Sakai survived by diving to sea level at maximum speed, his Zero's airframe groaning under stress that would have torn apart a lesser aircraft. He landed at Rabaul at 15:23 hours with 37 bullet holes in his aircraft, hydraulic fluid streaming from severed lines, and his radio shot away. Total engagement duration, 4 minutes 44 seconds. Japanese losses, 40 fighters, 4 pilots killed. American losses, 0. Kill ratio, 4-0. The ammunition expended by the 6 Corsairs in this engagement, approximately 2,400 rounds of .50 caliber, exceeded Rabaul's monthly allocation of .50 caliber ammunition for base defense, which totaled 1,800 rounds for all defensive positions combined. Minoru Genda reviewed Sakai's report with visible skepticism. 4 experienced pilots defeated in under 5 minutes. These Americans were lucky, nothing more. But Sakai's aircraft, riddled with holes from a single firing pass, told a different story. The bullets had been placed with precision, targeting the Zero's vulnerable fuel tank, hydraulic lines, and control surfaces. This was not lucky shooting. This was systematic application of overwhelming firepower against a target that could not escape. Witness tracking. The witness Sakai, the mocker Genda, intelligence dismissed the reports from Rendova as exaggerated claims by shaken pilots. The Americans have always had heavier armament, Genda told his staff. Weight of fire does not offset maneuverability advantage. These pilots panicked and attributed their failures to American superiority rather than their own errors. Headquarters filed Sakai's report without distributing it to other units. The assumption held that isolated engagements did not indicate systematic trends. Jiro Nakamura reported to headquarters in late June. 14 similar engagements reported across the Solomons Theater. Combined kill ratio, 47, 3 in favor of American Corsair units. This represents a fundamental shift in combat effectiveness. He presented compiled data showing Corsair climb rate exceeded 0 climb rate by 780 feet per minute. Maximum speed exceeded 0 by 89 miles per hour. Firepower exceeded 0 by a ratio of 2.81. We should revise tactical doctrine to account for American performance advantages. American production by June 1943, 902 F4U Corsairs monthly. Japanese production by June 1943, 620 fighters monthly across all types. A single American fighter program exceeded Japan's entire fighter production. American aluminum production, 920,000 tons annually. Japanese aluminum production, 147,000 tons annually. American aluminum production exceeded Japanese production by 526%. A single American aluminum smelter in Alcoa, Tennessee, produced more aluminum monthly than Japan's 3 largest smelters combined. They tried altitude advantage. The Americans climbed higher faster. They attempted diving attacks. The Corsairs dove faster and pulled out of dives while Zeros shed parts under G-loading. They tried head-on attacks, gambling that Americans would flinch. The Corsairs held course, their 6.50 caliber machine guns concentrated forward, while Zero pilots faced just 2 7.7 guns and 2 20 cannons with limited ammunition. They attempted group tactics with numerical advantage. The Americans maintained formation discipline, extended when threatened, and returned to attack isolated targets. July 17, 1943, New Georgia, 13:12 hours, 8 Zeros encountered 4 Corsairs over Munda Airfield. The Americans held altitude advantage at 18,000 feet. At 13:12 hours, the Corsairs dove through the Japanese formation at 380 miles per hour. At 13:12 hours and 23 seconds, the lead Zero exploded. Kill time, 23 seconds. At 13:12 hours and 51 seconds, a second Zero burst into flames. The pilot killed instantly. Kill time, 51 seconds. At 13:13 hours and 18 seconds, a third Zero stalled during an evasive turn, presenting a momentary target. Kill time, 4 seconds. The Corsairs climbed back to 22,000 feet in 88 seconds. The remaining 5 Zeros could not follow. Maximum Japanese climb rate, 3,100 feet per minute. Actual Corsair climb rate, 3,240 feet per minute. The Americans held position above the Japanese formation, untouchable, choosing when and how to engage. At 13:16 hours, the Corsairs dove again. At 13:16 hours and 34 seconds, a fourth Zero fell. Kill time, 34 seconds. At 13:17 hours and 11 seconds, a fifth Zero disintegrated. Kill time, 37 seconds. 3 Zeros survived by fleeing at sea level, their pilots abandoning any attempt to engage. Total engagement, 5 minutes, 11 seconds. Japanese losses, 5 zeros, 5 pilots. American losses, 1 Corsair with minor damage from a single 7.7 hit. Kill ratio, 5-0, excluding the damaged aircraft. The ammunition expended in this engagement exceeded the monthly allocation for Munda Airfield's entire defensive arsenal. Genda finally acknowledged the pattern. We are not facing isolated superior pilots, we are facing systematic superiority across their entire fighter force. But he maintained that tactical innovation could offset American advantages. Our pilots must refuse engagement unless conditions favor us. We choose when to fight. This doctrine assumed Japanese forces could control the terms of engagement. They could not. Witness tracking, the mocker Genda, Willow Run, Michigan, July 1943. At Ford's Willow Run facility, B-24 Liberator bombers emerged from the assembly line every 63 minutes. Every hour, another 4-engine heavy bomber completed final assembly, was fueled, armed, and flown to operational units. This single facility produced more 4-engine bombers monthly than Germany's entire heavy bomber production. This single American factory exceeded the combined heavy bomber output of Germany and Japan. Americans discarded damaged .50 caliber machine gun barrels daily. Quality control rejected barrels with rifling imperfections measuring less than .002 inches. These rejected barrels, 847 daily across American ordnance production, were melted for scrap metal. Japan manufactured 1,240 aircraft machine gun barrels monthly, allocating each barrel with documentation tracking its installation and maintenance schedule. The waste from Boeing's Seattle plant exceeded Japan's total aircraft aluminum allocation. Boeing produced 362 B-17 Flying Fortress bombers monthly. Each aircraft required 22,000 pounds of aluminum. Production waste metal trimmed during assembly, rejected components, damaged parts totaled 8.7% of input material. Boeing's monthly waste aluminum exceeded 68,000 pounds. Japan's monthly aluminum allocation for all military aircraft, 315,000 pounds. Workers threw away damaged spark plugs that Japan cleaned and reused repeatedly. American engine production required 36 spark plugs per R2800 engine. Quality control rejected 2.1% of plugs. These rejected plugs, 18,247 monthly across Pratt and Whitney production, were discarded. Japanese maintenance crews cleaned and reused spark plugs until they failed completely, sometimes reinstalling plugs that had served in 5 different engines. The cafeteria at Consolidated Aircraft's San Diego facility discarded more rice daily than Truck Island's garrison received weekly. Consolidated's cafeteria served rice as a side dish to 8,700 workers daily, providing 1,247 pounds. Waste rice totaled 89 pounds daily. Japanese forces at Truck received 84 pounds of rice weekly for 1,800 personnel, supplementing this with locally sourced fish and coconuts. Rubber scrap from Boeing's tire production exceeded Japan's monthly rubber allocation for all purposes. Each required 4 main tires and 1 tail tire. Boeing wasted approximately 4.3 pounds of rubber per aircraft in production scrap. Monthly rubber waste, 1,557 pounds. Japan's monthly rubber allocation after loss of Southeast Asian supplies, 1,100 pounds total, used for all military and essential civilian purposes including aircraft tires, vehicle tires, seals, hoses, and insulation. Americans discarded training ammunition in quantities that exceeded combat allocations. At gunnery training ranges in Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico, student gunners fired approximately 2.4 million rounds monthly of .50 caliber ammunition during training exercises. Rabaul's combat allocation of .50 caliber ammunition for defensive purposes, 1,800 rounds monthly. A single American training base expended more ammunition in one day than Japan's largest Pacific Air Base allocated for an entire month. Nakamura prepared another briefing in August 1943. American production now exceeds our maximum estimates from January. They are producing 2,467 fighters monthly across all types. They are producing 1,847 bombers monthly. They are producing 847 transport aircraft monthly. Their single-month production of fighters exceeds our total fighter inventory. He included intelligence photographs showing production facilities that stretched across entire city blocks. Their industrial capacity is not merely larger than ours. It represents a different category of industrial organization. We cannot match this production through increased effort or improved efficiency. The briefing reached 4th Air Army headquarters. Genda reviewed the numbers. Then we must destroy their carriers and cut off their supply lines. We will defeat them through attrition they cannot sustain. But the mathematics of attrition favored the Americans. Japanese losses in July 1943, 247 aircraft, 198 pilots. American production in July 1943, 2,467 fighters, 1,847 bombers. American losses in July 1943, 89 aircraft in the Pacific Theater. Japan could not achieve attrition victory against an enemy that produced 30 times their losses. Witness tracking: the Warner Nakamura, the Mocker Genda, August 18, 1943. Vella Lavella, 8:47 hours, 18 Zeros faced 12 Corsairs at 16,000 feet. The engagement lasted 9 minutes, 37 seconds. At 8:47 hours, both formations sighted each other. At 8:48 hours, the Corsairs climbed to 21,000 feet, gaining altitude advantage before the Zeros could respond. At 8:49 hours and 14 seconds, the first diving attack began. At 8:49 hours and 29 seconds, the lead Zero exploded under concentrated fire. Kill time, 15 seconds. At 8:49 hours and 52 seconds, a second Zero fell, its wings separating from the fuselage. Kill time, 23 seconds. At 8:50 hours and 18 seconds, a third Zero stalled and entered an unrecoverable spin. Kill time, 26 seconds. At 8:50 hours and 43 seconds, a fourth Zero caught fire. The pilot bilayed out, but his parachute failed to deploy. Kill time, 25 seconds. The Corsairs climbed again, reaching 24,000 feet in 94 seconds. The surviving Zeros attempted to disengage. At 8:52 hours, the Corsairs dove again. At 8:52 hours and 31 seconds, a fifth Zero disintegrated. Kill time, 31 seconds. At 8:53 hours and 4 seconds, a sixth Zero shed its tail assembly under G-forces during evasive maneuvers. Kill time, 33 seconds. At 8:53 hours and 47 seconds, a seventh Zero burst into flames. Kill time, 43 seconds. At 8:54 hours and 22 seconds, an eighth Zero exploded. Kill time, 35 seconds. At 8:55 hours, 4 Zeros attempted coordinated attack. The Corsairs split into 2 elements, each element engaging 2 Zeros. At 8:55 hours and 38 seconds, the ninth Zero fell. Kill time, 16 seconds. At 8:55 hours and 59 seconds, the 10th Zero exploded. Kill time, 21 seconds. At 8:56 hours and 27 seconds, the 11th Zero disintegrated. Kill time, 28 seconds. At 8:56 hours and 51 seconds, the 12th Zero caught fire. Kill time, 24 seconds. 6 Zeros survived by diving to sea level and fleeing at maximum speed, abandoning formation discipline, abandoning their mission, abandoning any attempt to engage. Enemy aircraft destroyed, 12. American losses, 0. Kill ratio, 12-0. The ammunition expended exceeded Rabaul's monthly allocation for combat operations. The fuel consumed by 12 Corsairs in this engagement exceeded the weekly aviation fuel allocation for Munda Airfield's entire fighter contingent. This wasn't combat. This was systematic annihilation. At 9:12 hours, Minoru Genda was leading a separate formation near Vella Lavella when 6 Corsairs appeared above his position. He attempted to climb to gain altitude advantage, to establish favorable engagement parameters. The Corsairs climbed faster. At 9:13 hours and 47 seconds, they dove through his formation. Genda's Zero took fire through the cockpit, engine, and fuel tank. At 9:14 hours and 23 seconds, Lieutenant Commander Minoru Genda was killed when his Zero exploded. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 36 seconds. The pilot who dismissed American innovation, who calculated that Japanese pilot skill would offset material disadvantages, who commanded with confidence based on early war victories, died in exactly the scenario he claimed impossible. His tactical innovations, his combat experience, his 500 flight hours meant nothing against an aircraft that climbed faster, flew faster, dove faster, and carried firepower that turned his Zero into debris in 36 seconds. Saburo Sakai witnessed Genda's death from 8,000 feet above, helpless to intervene as Corsairs tore through the formation. They didn't fight us. They processed us like factory machinery processes raw materials. There was no combat art, no dogfighting skill, just systematic application of superior speed, superior climb, superior firepower. We were not warriors defeated by better warriors. We were obsolete equipment discarded by superior technology. Witness tracking. The mocker Genda died. The witness Sakai, October 1945. Tokyo. Jiro Nakamura sat across from American intelligence officers in a bare room at occupation headquarters. His uniform had been taken. He wore civilian clothing that hung loose on his frame, weight lost during the final months when food supplies collapsed. The Americans wanted to understand how Japan's military had assessed American capability. Nakamura told them, "We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. Your production of the F4U Corsair alone exceeded our production of all fighter types. A single American factory produced more aluminum monthly than our entire nation produced. Your Chance Vought facility at Stratford produced 31 Corsairs daily. Our maximum production across all manufacturers reached 21 fighters daily across all types. The mathematics were undeniable. You could lose 3 aircraft for every one of ours and still achieve air superiority through sheer replacement capacity." He provided numbers from memory, numbers he had reported repeatedly to headquarters, numbers that had been dismissed as defeatist. In 1943, you produced 29,355 fighters. We produced 7,147. In 1944, you produced 38,873 fighters. We produced 5,100. By 1945, your monthly production exceeded our annual production. You produced fighters faster than we could train pilots to fly them, faster than we could destroy them, faster than we could even count them. Saburo Sakai testified separately. "I saw combat evolve from fighter-to-fighter engagement into systematic destruction. The Americans at Guadalcanal in 1942 fought bravely but with limited skill. Their F4F Wildcats were inferior, but they learned. By 1943, the Corsairs arrived. We could not climb with them, could not dive with them, could not escape them. I witnessed 18 Zeros destroyed by 12 Corsairs in under 10 minutes. This was not combat. This was annihilation." Additional testimonies followed consistent patterns. Captain Yasuhiko Kuro, "We brought swords to industrialized warfare. Our pilots trained in Bushido, in warrior spirit, in acceptance of death. The Americans trained in mass production, in systematic application of firepower, in overwhelming material advantage. Spirit cannot defeat assembly lines." Commander Tadashi Nakajima, "Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. We operated factories at absolute capacity, 24 hours daily, using impressed labor and limited materials. They operated multiple shifts with voluntary workers who earned high wages and ate better than our officers. Their waste exceeded our production." Lieutenant Saburo Kawato, "They could lose 1,000 aircraft and replace them in 11 days. We could lose 100 aircraft and require 2 months to replace them." The mathematics were catastrophic. Every exchange ratio favored them through sheer production volume. American production statistics as recorded by Japanese intelligence. 167,654 fighters produced 1942-1945. Japanese production. 30,447 fighters produced 1942-1945. Single American fighter. 12,571 F4U Corsairs. Entire Japanese naval fighter production. 10,939 Zeros. Single American factory maximum output. 31 Corsairs daily at Stratford. Entire Japanese industry maximum output. 21 fighters daily across all types. American aluminum production 1942-1945. 3,680,000 tons. Japanese aluminum production 1942-1945, 441,000 tons. Single American aluminum smelter maximum output, 34,000 tons annually at Alcoa. Entire Japanese aluminum industry maximum output, 147,000 tons annually across 6 major facilities. American aviation fuel production 1940-1945, 387 million barrels. Japanese aviation fuel production 1940-1945, 14,200,000 barrels. Single American refinery maximum output, 12,400,000 barrels annually at Baytown. Entire Japanese synthetic fuel production maximum output, 4,700,000 barrels annually across all facilities. Witness tracking. The Warner Nakamura, the Witness Sakai, the F4U Corsair proved that industrial democracy outproduces authoritarian command economies. Free workers outproduced impressed laborers. Democratic cooperation exceeded totalitarian control. Industrial abundance buried ideological superiority under 12,571 Corsairs, each one representing American capacity to build, to supply, to maintain, to replace. The Corsairs' dominance was not merely technical superiority. Though its 417 mph maximum speed exceeded the zero by 86 mph, though its 3,870 feet per minute climb rate exceeded Japanese capability, though its 6.50 caliber machine guns delivered 2.8 times the firepower. The Corsairs' dominance was systematic. American industry produced them faster than Japan could destroy them, maintained them better than Japan could maintain their fighters, and replaced losses before Japanese commanders could count victories. March 14, 1943. Minoru Genda had laughed at the heavy American fighter, confident that Japanese pilot skill would offset American material advantages. August 18, 1943. Genda died when his Zero exploded in 36 seconds, destroyed by an aircraft he dismissed, killed by industrial capacity he underestimated, erased by mathematics he refused to accept. His mockery became history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 18,500 Japanese pilot deaths and the complete destruction of Japanese air power across the Pacific. Japanese forces destroyed 189 Corsairs in aerial combat across the entire Pacific War. American factories built 12,571 Corsairs. The ratio was 66:1. For every Corsair destroyed, American factories built 66 more. Japanese industry could not achieve victory against an enemy that produced replacement aircraft faster than they could destroy them. The mathematics were absolute. Industrial capacity determined air superiority determined naval superiority determined island campaigns determined strategic bombing capability, strategic bombing determined victory. The lesson remains. Dismissing democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace or underestimating free people's productive capacity invites catastrophic miscalculation. The United States in 1941 appeared unprepared. A nation that built 331 fighters in 1939 seemed incapable of challenging powers that built thousands. But American industrial democracy possessed capacity that totalitarian command economies could not match. Free workers producing for wages exceeded impressed laborers producing under threat. Voluntary cooperation exceeded coerced obedience. The nation that seemed weak because it preferred peace proved stronger because its free citizens, when motivated, could outproduce any authoritarian system. Genda's dismissive laughter in that Rabaul headquarters in March 1943 echoed across the Pacific as 12,571 Corsairs, produced by free workers in Connecticut, Kansas, and Pennsylvania, systematically destroyed the Air Force he commanded. The F4U Corsair did not merely win air superiority. It proved that democratic industrial capacity, unleashed and organized, represents military power that authoritarian command economies cannot match regardless of warrior spirit, tactical innovation, or early victories.